let's shoot the shit. Yeah. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Let's pontificate, verbally masturbate. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Yeah. It's time to shoot the shit. Come on, motherfucker, let's shoot the shit.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to another Fearless QA. You can tweet in your questions. We got a ton of questions, more questions than any other show in the history of Fearless QA. There's been over 20-some episodes. It's a crazy day. We're really excited. I've got Don Yemma, who's a senior art director from Crispin, who came to me and said, why don't you do a show about women in advertising? And I thought, that is just dumb, because who cares, right? And she was very insistent and said, this matters. We need to talk about this. And I said, okay, why don't you come on and we'll do a show? And she said, no, I don't want to come on and do a show on women in advertising. So yeah, I kind of put it to you that if you want to do this, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you changed your mind because you realized you were having a moment of fear.
Yes.
And you said, I'm going to overcome that, and we're going to do it.
Like Eleanor Roosevelt said, you need to do something that scares you every day. So I challenged myself, and then
this is a big one.
Talked to Danielle.
It's so easy to do something that scares yourself every day, though. Like if you're me and you're just generally terrified.
Yeah.
So Danielle Whalen, also an account director at the agency, has joined us. She was excited about being on this show and talking about what it is. I guess two things. We're going to talk about two things. One is, what is it like to be a woman in this field? And then the other, we're going to touch on a little bit of the work that's done that is tasked with talking to women and how successful or unsuccessful that may be. And everything in between. So we got a ton of questions. I'm gonna usually I don't dive into the Twitter questions this quickly, but we have a lot. So I haven't had to do anything. It's my favorite show because I really haven't even come up with a question at this point. I'm sure some will come up. But first question, and I think it's a great place to start. What inspired you guys to have a career in advertising? Start with you.
I actually went to journalism school. I've always loved writing, and so I just wanted to be a writer. And I wanted to be actually a newspaper writer, and then I realized it just wasn't creative enough for me. So then I decided I wanted to be a magazine writer.
Because newspaper writers write about things that are actually happening.
Right.
You wanted to make up stuff.
Way too boring for me. Way too boring for me. I had more of a fictional mind, you know? I like to make stuff up, and then I went to magazine writing, and then I felt like I like pithier, sort of quick-witted type writing. So
you mean you went to did you have a career?
I went to journalism school.
Okay,
and so we different tracks. I moved back and forth, and then finally, where my professors sent me, they said you should be a copywriter, and I took a copywriting class, and I loved it, but decided that it was. Too stressful.
Too hard?
Too hard. I was like, I can't do this. This is way too hard for me. So I decided I couldn't be a copywriter. But I still loved advertising. So I started taking some law classes about advertising and sort of feeling the whole industry of it, and decided I actually just want to work in it, even if I don't necessarily have the skill to be a copywriter.
It's pretty funny, because you're one of my favorite account people of all time, and you know that, and many of those account people that have excelled here actually were on a creative track, and then either in their careers changed to the account service side, or.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because when I actually came to Crispin in 1999, there were 75 people in the agency. And the recruiter said to me, there's this hot young shop in Miami, and they're looking for failed creatives to be account people. And I was like, this is my calling.
I love that failed.
Yeah, it's failed.
That's a job description.
Accepting of that, right?
You're like, that is so me.
No, that's so me. I'm a failure. So it was perfect for me. And the agency I was at the time was great, but it just wasn't fulfilling my sort of creative need. And so when I came to Crispin, of course, that everything changed.
Yeah.
It
sounds like Jeff Steinauer probably wrote that ad, because that's who he
exactly
has seen himself as.
And those of us who work with Jeff Steinauer aspire to be like that too.
Right.
So yeah, it's worked out
Right.
perfectly. So that's how I did it.
It's good. So what happened with you?
Well, I think my journey is a little more diabolical. I've been fascinated by messaging and, psychology and the way people respond, culture, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to me, I felt like advertising, for better for worse, had an influence on culture. And even way back in the 80s when I went to advertising art school, I felt like there was a power in it, and I kind of liked that. And so that's what I mean. It's a little more diabolical. It's less, it's just less pure as your journey.
You wanted to mess with people.
I did,
you
exactly.
wanted to mess with people. Yeah.
And I still love doing that.
Still like that. Yeah.
I like
playing
it.
in culture. And
Yeah.
we talked about this before, but it's a little like other, like music and film and things like that. You get to play in culture, and whether you're messing or whether you're I don't think you're diabolical. I know you pretty well. You're not diabolical. In fact, when we first met, you were working at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we were doing work for them, and and you were a designer over there.
Yes.
And I guess at some point reached out to me and you said, "Hey, I'd like to come over to the agency."
I sent you a letter because I was like diabolical. I was planning.
You think you're so diabolical. I like this. Yeah.
I was planning, my target market, one person, Alex Bogusky. And I know he's not going to be looking at a lot of books because he's too busy. There's going to be a filter there. So I just wrote a letter on some flowery stationery, told you I was a grandmother, which is everything I said in the letter was true.
How nice.
And I said I'd love to work there. And then he said,
what did I say?
Send my book. And I said, oh my God, I don't have a book.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And you, I was kind of impressed actually that you wanted to make such a dramatic move. That was what resonated for me. It was not the grandmother thing or anything other than I'm doing this thing. I'm in Minnesota. I'm in Minneapolis. I got this life. But I want this young person's. I want to enter this young person's game and just give it a shot. And you showed up, and you kicked ass like crazy, And it was inspiring to see. I was so glad that we made it work. It's like for me, it was a little bit of a risk. Not a
It was, and you said that.
I said it's like let's give it a shot. And also, I couldn't give you exactly what you wanted. I think I put you in the studio or like, where did I put you?
Made me a designer.
I made you a designer, okay.
And I officed immediately with a copywriter.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you this.
She just went in there. She's like, I know I'm a designer, but I just came up with 10 campaigns,
Exactly.
I have to tell you this because I've been concerned that you misunderstood all these years. I didn't try to pull one over on you when I worked with Danielle.
I never felt that you did.
But I was like, I was all about the employee handbook, and it was like jump on grenades. And Danielle needed someone to help with the Burger King NFL stuff and Coke Zero, and so I jumped in on it, and then it was
some of our best stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she comes out of nowhere. It's like grandmother from Minnesota arrives and then does the Burger King running, in the NFL.
One of the most iconic
just great.
spots we've ever done.
Just great.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
That's so fun to see.
That's awesome.
And then you left us.
Yes, I had some family things happening.
Things had to happen. But so why did you come back? That's the question.
Well,
we have a thing called the Boomerang Award because it isn't uncommon for people to come back. It's so common that it's got a name. And so you're a boomerang.
Yes.
Did you ever get the Boomerang Award?
I got it,
Excellent.
along with about 6 other people this last
Oh yeah, that was a Bucketed Award this year, I remember.
last holiday party. And no, I came back. I mean, I felt like CPB, I've just been one of the biggest fans ever. I'm a total Kool-Aid drinker. But I felt like CPB was the best culture for me. And I didn't feel as weird here as I have other places, I felt like being kind of a little bit...
Me neither.
...weird. You fit in here,
Yeah. You fit, that's an awesome compliment, actually, I think. So another tweeted in question. Tweet in your questions to Fearless QA. Women in advertising. We're talking about women in advertising. What women in the business have inspired you?
That's a really, really good question.
It may stump you, maybe.
You know, I'm embarrassed to say that I've been more inspired by the men in the industry, and I think it's because there are just more men in the limelight and who have, in my opinion, really made a lot of important changes to the industry. So I can't exactly point to any one woman that has inspired me specifically in this industry. I will say there's a lot of women in this office that inspire me. And I've worked with most of the very senior level women here, and every single one brings a different thing to the table, and I learn something new from every single one, and I would say that they probably inspire me more than anything. Additionally, Tiffany Cosell, my creative director, is watching the way she thinks about things as a woman and how she reacts has also inspired me too. But that's just, you know, that's my daily inspiration.
And your group is sort of unusual because it's all women.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, there's a few men in there, but very strong men who are okay feeling a little masculine.
But it was like, you know, I don't know how many years ago I said to Tiffany and you, and I'm like, we're going to set this, you know, we're going to put together a group of women to tackle fashion because we've never done that right. I mean, you guys are going to do Old Navy, and you, I think you went a little further with it than I had thought, which is it was. Every woman in the agency is like, I want in on that, and guys were pushed aside. It was great though. No, it was really great, and we've nailed it, and the work has been great, and what's happened with the company has been incredible. So what is within that group and within that experience of actually working on something that maybe for the first time for you is specifically targeted towards women too? How's that?
It was a little uncomfortable at first, which is, I know, seems a little bit strange.
Seems weird.
Well, prior to that, I had been working on Burger King. So, I mean, you're talking about a complete shift in terms of your target audience and your tone. And also, I had never worked on a campaign or a client or a brand that was solely targeted towards women. And so I found myself...
So are you sexist?
Pretty much. Pretty much. Now I hate all men, actually.
You're still sexist. It's just you've turned it in the right direction for yourself. Good.
Exactly. I felt very out of my own skin when I first did it. And I found myself having to reconnect with my intuition. And then once I started to do that, I started to get on a roll. And it's funny to watch women when they first come on the team. They all seem to have that reaction where they're a little uncomfortable. They're used to that sort of...
Well, maybe it is more personal in a way.
I think it is. Well, it's more intuitive. I know. I watch the men who are on our team, and I give them all the credit in the world because I think they're accustomed. Same thing. We're accustomed to working on things that you feel very intuitive about. And I never, I'm not a man, so I'm not intuitive in the way a man thinks, but I've had to learn how to think about it the way a man thinks. And so I think for a man to have that reverse reaction is an interesting thing.
One of the questions that came in was, was there ever a particular client that you thought was difficult to work on because you're a woman? It sounds like the answer is, the stuff where I had to actually speak to women.
Right. It was much more challenging, I thought.
That's interesting.
And I do see, it's interesting, the guys who are on our team are, they don't necessarily struggle, but I definitely see them have to work maybe a little bit harder, like I've had to do in the past. Whereas now that it's more intuitive for me, I don't have to work as hard. But it was definitely an uncomfortable experience first that I had to get used to. Now I don't know if I can go back.
So you have to at some point.
Eventually.
It's probably. Has there been an account that was difficult for you, do you think, because you were a woman? Or is that just a stupid question?
No, I don't think it's a stupid question. For me personally, I feel like I have an overdeveloped masculine side. And I find that,
You're really coming clean. It's good. It's good.
Well, I tend to laugh at things that guys laugh at. I have a little bit of a darker sense of humor. So I found actually working on some of the male-oriented things a little easier. I think that the most difficult thing is I've worked on a lot of products that are female-targeted, from everything from animal health like companion animal things where women are the biggest caregiver of the pets,
Right.
to butter, or frozen dessert and things like that. And I think the hardest thing is trying to break through some of the stereotypes that I feel that some of the clients have and maybe some of the creatives.
For women or just in general?
Well, kind of the thing, when you bring something humorous, it's always like, oh, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. There is like a set kind of a perception that a lot of clients have, and especially in areas like beauty and fashion. Beauty, it's like, I've worked on hair care products, skincare products, things like that, and it's like, wow, we can't say too much, and you can't be funny. You basically need to just show beautiful hair, show beautiful skin. So that was the most challenging. Just
the dumbing down of things. What is, speaking of dumb, and besides today on the show, what's the dumbest thing anyone's ever said to you? Any guys ever said to you in advertising? Start with you. Is that a long list? You're like...
well, no. I mean, I've had the,
it's okay if it's me.
It wasn't you. I won't actually say who it is, but there is definitely a little bit of misogyny that goes on, especially when you're dealing with a male client. And I've definitely had the you should hug me goodbye, and you should like the patting on the shoulder. I mean, that's just dumb.
Sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment.
So sexual harassment, dumb.
Just
don't do it.
Bad idea.
Just don't do it.
No propositions. No, bad idea.
My assistant Art is gay, and sometimes he will come around and give me a little massage, and I don't. Is that sexual harassment?
If you feel violated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel
if you like it,
violated?
Okay.
It's cool.
So at this point, it's always been short. It just feels like a little like, hey, dude, great day. But if it goes on, then maybe I could maybe send an email to myself about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I think what sometimes I've actually witnessed on the Old Navy team in terms of the role reversal is that women have definitely, they will say things in front of the guys on our team and almost harass them in a very playful way. But
it's gone the other way.
Oh, it definitely has.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit more? Because there's no doubt that the one became illegal, I guess, and the other is illegal too, but it's kind of happening a bit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But men
you probably don't say anything more.
Yeah, probably
just
not.
Stop now.
No,
go ahead, tell us.
No, I'm just saying men tend to have
they like sexual harassment.
They do. I think they feel it's banter to them.
Yeah.
It's not making them feel violated. And I think women definitely stay. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's not that. It probably doesn't go there, but it's guys probably like it. Or you think, but is it okay for you to think that they like it, or maybe should you? No, I think it's not.
Probably
I think it's not.
Probably not.
I think you better ask.
Probably
next time you're massaging your assistant, just check.
I have a friend who has just come up with this thesis, Julie, and her thesis are chicks are the new dicks. And
sounds like a book.
Well, she said, should I write it?
Yes.
And I said yes.
Tell her I said yes.
Yes. And I'll send you the link of a presentation she gave me. But there is a lot of, women are getting more aggressive. And, there's a lingerie model running a drug cartel. You see the sorority of all these women in the University of Miami in Ohio that just they're packing guns. They're drinking DUI or a blood alcohol of 0.7 on when Live to tell about it. She's got a whole list of how they're becoming
trouble. Just trouble.
Yeah,
just
she calls
trouble.
them dicks, but
chicks are definitely the new dicks on Old Navy. I will say that.
Really?
Yes.
We probably should move on.
I want to tell you the dumbest thing a guy ever said to me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just telling Danielle about this, and there was a discussion I was having with a creative director at another agency, and I was kind of disputing something in the spot because it didn't make sense to me. We were working on a ice cream product that you eat at home, but yet they wanted to show it at an NBA game. So I was like trying to talk about that.
Yeah.
And he said, "Stop acting like a wife."
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, what?
What does that mean? I guess we
Yeah.
don't know what it means.
Well, he thought I was naggy or
Oh.
whatever like that. And
Well, there is a different style. Women and men have a different style,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know if this is even if this is probably the second dumbest thing. but have you ever cried at work?
Oh yeah. Actually, you've
in
made
the
me
last
cry.
month.
I made you cry. Okay, so that really was a dumb question. Yeah.
We won't get into that though.
I'm going to try to make you cry right now. So, did I see you cry, or did you go cry?
You recognized that I was crying because I had sunglasses on and you hugged me.
Oh. So I harassed you. Yeah, on top of that. That's so bad.
Exactly.
How about you? Have you ever cried?
Actually, in the last month.
You have.
It was out of frustration. That's the only time I cry is when I'm like trying to communicate something and it feels like nobody's listening, and then I just like.
And I think, have you ever made any of the guys that are working for you cry?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I have.
interesting. Yeah.
And surprisingly,
And maybe, and this is maybe a good thing. Maybe in that group, it's okay.
Yeah.
And because the reality is, I think the reason why women will sometimes cry is because they're not taught that it's like absolutely not okay, whereas guys are, right?
True.
So you've made some guys cry,
Not proud of it.
empowered
Not my finest
them,
moment.
empowered them to
Yes.
cry.
It's
I
okay
think
to feel.
it's
what you
okay to feel those
Let it out.
emotions.
But I will.
You're working on Old Navy. We
It
need
actually
you
was
to feel
not
that.
on Old Navy, believe
Oh,
it or
was
not.
it?
It was not, but it was. It was a very private environment where it was just he and I, and having a very frank discussion. Now, I don't know. I've never had that experience in a group, and
Yeah.
I wonder if it would ever happen in a group. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that I've a few times cried in a group, but
So beyond the forcing men to cry, I mean, you're a powerful woman. Tiffany is a really powerful woman, very powerful force. Powerful, you're powerful people. And working with you, do you see anything that's a difficulty for guys? Are you encountering? Do you encounter something where it's just like some men may have just a problem with it? Does that still exist?
There's actually a little bit of that still exists. I find that men are afraid to ask questions. So when a woman says something, it's like the directions thing.
Right.
You know?
See, it's exact. I was like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they just. I find, and so you'll speak and speak and speak, and you'll say, "Is everything clear? Does that make sense to everyone?" And the men will not ask the question, whereas the woman feels very comfortable. That's what I find more comfortable. Seems like asking the question, and even if it sounds like a dumb question, they'll ask the question.
Yeah.
So, and because of that, sometimes there's a lot of missteps because. If you don't ask the question, you make assumptions, and you can't make assumptions. So that's the one. I think that's the one.
I think it's really true.
Yeah.
I think it's really true.
Lack
And
of comfort.
I'm thinking about briefings
Yeah.
and who asks questions. And I can remember you asking a lot of questions in briefings. And all the guys are like writing it down, the answers.
I know. They're like, "Thank God she asked that question."
Exactly. Like if your girlfriend or wife asks for directions, you're definitely listening because you're lost too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you're like, yeah, whatever, we'll find it.
There's a guy that works on Old Navy that uses a tape recorder in the briefings, and when I
never
first
noticed
sat
that.
in there, I was like, "Who's taping this?" It made us all paranoid, and
That's funny.
AJ, and
I
he's
had
like,
no idea. Good for
it's
him.
me. I want to be able to hear everything back again, and so
That's
him
cool.
in the room with all these other women.
That's funny.
So the question coming in, I think a lot of people who watch the show, I know a lot of students watch the show, and so they look at you and they're like, okay, these people have made it. Is there something to do to avoid being pigeonholed into beauty and fashion? Jen the AD is asking.
Well, I think
I think it's more about what agency you go to,
Yeah.
almost, right?
Yeah. you have to look at the client roster, I think, and where you're going. If you are in a place where there's a lot of that happening, but yet there's other accounts that you want to work on, I think you need to try to step up and, you have to fight against it because I know it happens.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there are agencies that have a lot of, like, male-targeted accounts. There's one in particular in Minneapolis at one point a creative director said, we'll have a woman creative here when women become funny. And
wow. That could have been in your list of stupidest things.
That's true.
Didn't say it exactly to you, but I've actually heard that.
Yeah.
It's gone through the female circuit of gossip.
Oh, that a guy said this.
Yeah,
That's
in Minneapolis.
So
Really?
how that's amazing.
Oh.
How hard is it, just the business in general? Is the business harder for you as a woman, do you think? Is it harder for some women versus others? Is there, you said I got a lot of guy in me or something like that?
I have a overdeveloped masculine.
Overdeveloped masculine side. Is that maybe something that makes it easier? And do you see friends who don't have overdeveloped masculine sides and think this is a tough business to be in?
I think a lot of women in our business are just that way. I mean, just a little more.
Because Tiffany will tell anyone, I got bigger balls than you do.
You know,
and she'll probably say balls too.
Yeah.
Like,
with a few expletives before it.
yes.
Yeah. I remember using some expletives in Miami in a meeting with Andrew Keller, and I caught myself, and I apologized, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm talking like a sailor. He said, Dawn, you don't have to do that.
It's pretty funny.
And it wasn't that I felt like I had to. It's just that the culture, at times when you're working around a lot of guys, you kind of feel that way. You just kind of go with the flow.
Although, let's face it, from what I've heard on the old Navy team, it's a lot raunchier. You guys have taken the culture and kind of taken it even further.
We did, and a few times Tiffany and I have had to say...
Is Chad someone who works here? Chad, is that someone you made cry? Chad Stomer? He says he cries on the inside.
I've never made a gentleman by the name of Chad.
Yeah, we all cry on the inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring it out, Chad. cry inside, outside, sides, top, bottom.
It definitely gets raunchier, and that was my whole point about the harassment. I think that men have to endure some of the conversations that women have. It's almost, a lot of them have joked around and said, I'll be the best boyfriend ever because I'm listening.
Because now I know.
I understand what
it's sort of like growing. It's like that. Men who grow up with sisters are great boyfriends.
Right. Exactly.
I've heard, and so like guys should be trying to get on this team because it's going to shape you into quite the, lady killer, maybe.
Be a player.
We're opening up a world that they've never heard.
What was the conversation you guys had? You maybe don't want to share it. There was one that I heard that it was one of those that if you were a dude, you're like, oh my god,
I can't even. We have so many, I couldn't even.
It was I don't know. I hesitate to say. It was a very lady specific
issue.
Let's move on.
I wonder what it was.
It was
could be one of many.
It's making me shake a little bit, even though I'm not entirely sure what to call it.
It's funny.
So a question that came in for Dawn is, you worked on VW and Safe Happens, Did you ever feel weird as a woman on a car account? I don't know why you would.
Never.
Do you know how to drive?
I'm learning.
So you were comfortable with that. And what about, do you drive stick?
Yeah, I got
I can tell you drive stick.
My Mini. I got a Mini.
Hey, Danielle, have you ever read Seducing the Boys Club by Nina DeSesa?
I've not read that, no.
Have you heard of it?
No, I've never heard of it,
okay.
Actually. No.
Have you heard of Nina?
No, I have not heard.
You guys just don't care about women who forged the way, really at all, do you?
Because I don't. For me, it's not about men versus women. It's about.
I think McCann
smart
for a long time.
people. I think that's where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of where it has to move, I guess.
I think, and I think that's maybe I'm in our, in my little bubble here of thinking about, because I never felt in any way like I was being judged or treated differently because I'm a woman.
I think you're just dishonoring the generation that came before that created this environment for you. So it's it's cool.
And I appreciate everything that those women have done for us. But I just think it's really about being smart and confident. And that's just funny because you said, Tiffany says, I've got bigger balls than any of you. That's just, to me, that's just confidence. And it's funny how it can be translated as being like a guy, which is to me just. Which I understand, because I think men tend to be a little bit more confident.
The Neil French is famous for saying something that I can't recall right now. I probably should have looked up what he said, and you may remember. But he said something about women, and the question was, why aren't more women in more senior positions? And I'm not even going to paraphrase what he said, but it had to do with, having babies and choosing not to, I guess, right? What's your reaction to that? Let's start with you.
Well, I thought that was. I think the way he said it was also just a little more disparaging to women rather than just a choice. It was a little more, basically saying, they're not smart enough. There was something in there too, like that. I
don't think there was.
I think, well, it could be just the way I was interpreting it.
Yeah.
But I remember when he said that, and I was working in Miami at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember he stopped by your office about a week later.
I know. And he was trying to fold me into the conversation, like, how it is.
Yeah, come on.
And I was like,
no, get away.
Don't drag me into that.
Well, I had my babies actually before I took this career. I have 4 children.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a choice because both of them are full-time jobs,
right.
Really full-time. And so I kind of waited till my kids were a little older, and then I was like, I'm packing up. I'm going to Miami. See ya. So.
Yeah.
There is some truth to, there is an added challenge to a woman in that if you decide that you want a family and children, that I think, to your point, because it is, a full-time job.
It's like a double full-time
job.
It
is more. I don't know if that is exactly why there aren't, as many women in senior level positions, but I can speak for myself personally. It is something that I think about in terms of like, can I do what I do currently and have a family? And
and what do you think?
I think it'll be challenging.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very, very challenging with our pace.
Yeah. Or you just get so good at it that you can do it.
True.
Right. Which could be. And someone said the ad biz only becomes harder the second a woman has a baby. It's then that the playing field changes. So, you have 2 different experiences. You don't have any children yet, and you've got grandchildren, and grandchildren. 4 children and grandchildren?
4 children and 1 grandchild.
But you did, now during that period where you were raising your babies from whatever ages, did you work in advertising? Did you work in design? What were you doing?
Well, I had started working, I basically had to work, my entire life.
Yeah.
But I started in like printing companies and things like that. And then I became like
I love your story.
a key liner at Cole McVoy, which is a
awesome
shop.
agency.
And I just knew I could do what they were doing, so I
love that. The opposite of you, right? Where you're like, I can't do that, and she's like, I can do that.
Screw that.
They're not very good at it.
So I eventually worked my way into getting, into the business. But I've had a lot of support,
Because we were a pretty good agency when you came to me.
Absolutely.
And you were like,
hard to get in.
we already had Burger King. We were
Yeah.
doing good, and you were like, hey, I'm a designer in Minneapolis, and I want to come there and be an art director.
I was like,
that's
what?
balls.
It's balls. Yeah. Someone was asking, like, is it hard to get in? At a certain age, is it hard to get in? It's like, everything's hard all the time.
Yeah.
I guess is really what the way I look at it. And certain people just bust through. You just busted through.
Well, one of the best compliments I ever had you gave me, you told me, you're immature. And I knew...
That could also be on the list of dumb things that men have said. Yeah.
No, I knew exactly what you were saying. You were just, saying you're not an old...
It'll be okay. You're immature. You're like us.
Well, yeah, and that, you're not old and hardened and stuck in my ways. I feel young. Half the time I feel like an adolescent. So,
How old do you feel?
Sometimes about 11.
I feel 12. I would think 12 is when I stopped maturing.
Yeah.
And when I first got in the business, I'd be in meetings, and I would think all these very, people in suits and stuff would be around the table, and I'd be like, oh my God, inside I'm only 12, and they're going to figure it out. And they never did. So if you are 12 inside, no one will ever know. Just keep going. Or if you're 11, you could be very successful at whatever age you stunt your emotional and intellectual growth.
I think you
How
have
old
to
are
have...
you inside?
You're
an account person. You may be in your 20s inside.
I would say I'm probably 18 or 19.
Very
inside.
mature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary
mature.
I know.
Me.
I know.
Yeah.
But still a certain touch of playfulness, I think. Still wanting to have fun. But I toggle. You know what it is? That age is where you toggle between like the need to be an adult, but the want to still be a child. And I feel like that constantly every day. So my account job is more like I have to be the sophisticated, the grown up. And then when I actually get in the weeds and talk about great creative and great strategy is when I feel like a child again.
It said Chad tweets in that what Neil said is they don't make it to the top because they don't deserve to.
Wow.
All right.
That's why
not
Chad's
good.
crying on the
No
inside.
wonder. Yeah.
That's why he's crying.
I think he said something else after he went on, and maybe it made it worse. I don't know. But,
I think the more he tried to explain it, it got worse.
It is one of those things that if you step into it, it's going to be difficult. So saying that their roles, actually there is another part of it, saying their roles as caregivers and child bearers prevented them from succeeding in top positions. You kind of acknowledge that a certain amount of that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is some of what he said true? The deserve to for sure not. But some of what he said is true. Yet are we just in a political climate where you can't, even though it may be true, you can't say it. You can say it, but he can't say it. Or
well, what's funny, we were talking about that earlier, is that it's exactly that. So women are still viewed as a minority, and with minorities,
which isn't true at all.
Right, it's not actually.
Yeah.
But that's why I think oftentimes you'll see on some feminist blogs, we were both looking at them, people feeling as though there's no advertising out there that respects women, and because. And which we disagree with, I think, but because I think if a man says it, if they feel like it's coming from a man's voice, that it isn't, it's disparaging.
So I think we have a clip of something that you guys thought was pretty cool and you wanted to show. You want to set it up?
Yeah.
This is like a real TV show.
I know, it's weird.
So I brought a clip.
Video.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Well, initially I think some of this discussion came about because I felt frustrated. All I seemed to see on TV to the ads to women were dancing or just
hair
so trite,
flipping.
hair flipping, so trite, and it just got frustrating. I'm like, well, isn't there any great ads out there for women?
It is amazing how shiny they can make hair, though. I'm just going to say that.
It's
right?
shocking.
It's shocking.
And also how glossy they can make lips. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
It's almost scary.
Yeah. There may be some retouching.
A little bit, maybe. But as I began to speak with other women, it's like, is there anything out there that really connects with you? Everybody seemed to say the same thing. Have you seen this new Kotex spot?
Okay.
Which JWT did in New York. And
some very bright, insightful women.
Can we roll that? Can we make that play now? Making it play.
How do I feel about my period? We're like this. I love it. I want to hold really soft things, like my cat. It makes me feel really pure. Sometimes I just want to run on the beach. I like to twirl, maybe in slow motion. And I do it in my white spandex. And usually by the third day, I really just want to dance. The ads on TV are really helpful because they use that blue liquid, and I'm like, oh, that's what's supposed to happen.
You wear Kotex, a new line of tampons.
I hadn't seen that. That's awesome.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's great.
They have a few ads actually that are very insightful.
Yeah.
And I heard, and I'm not sure if this
It's
is true.
it's a little bit just when you can peel back the things we've begun to accept culturally. It reminds me of Safe Happens.
Yeah.
Actually, right? It's like I'm actually not nervous about what happens to crash test dummies when they slam into a wall. I'm thinking more about what will happen with a person in a car, and so we show it, and then everyone's whoa. Yeah, but that is the real. That's the real concern, and this pulls back all these conventions in the category, and once you see them with just a slight little subtext change, you're like, so ridiculous.
The funny thing about that ad is that I probably have had that almost exact conversation with my girlfriends. Now, granted, I'm probably having more
you riff
conversations.
on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I instantly connected with it because I've had those same thoughts in my head.
Yeah.
And I think what I heard was Kotex actually used clips from their previous advertising.
Some of them looked really. I thought they were parodying, and you know, like the ball in the.
Yeah, that was a campaign called
that
The Period.
Seemed very
I think.
familiar. Yeah.
And
but I thought it was a recreation.
I
Because it wouldn't matter. They're all the same.
But I think it's
That's
pretty
the point.
ballsy, though, to pull your own advertising, if that's true, and make fun of it as ridiculous. So it's probably the only ones they could use.
Does it offend you that ballsy is a term that you would use and Tiffany would use to describe behavior that you aspire to, yet I don't know, but I assume you have no balls.
Well, you are. You say you're a tad masculine, so perhaps.
You know. It doesn't offend me. I
remember reading that Lance Armstrong, after his bout with cancer, testicular cancer, he hated that term.
Yeah.
He was like, it has nothing. You can be very ballsy without ball. Like we need a different word.
Right.
I'm just.
No, it's probably
probing.
True. It's probably true because that's.
I
don't even think of the context really when I say it.
No, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't evolve.
It's not derogatory.
Yeah,
it's.
I know, but it's coming from.
It's
this
equating
one
to a
gender and saying this gender, this aspect of the gender.
Yeah.
So we need a new term.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I want to hear.
I didn't say it. No, I can't say it.
Yeah.
This has been a really fun show. This is one of my favorite shows ever. Ron says Dawn is genuinely an awesome person and great to work with. I don't know what the question is in there for you, which is, I guess it's for us. Is that true? Do you find that Dawn is an awesome person? Dawn is an awesome person.
Ron's paid, the 20's coming, so. Yeah.
Now, badass is a term that I have used for Dawn, actually, in the past.
I love it.
And both male and female, the ass is, part of both anatomies.
Gender
so maybe
neutral.
it is gender neutral.
That's
badass
awesome.
is the term.
I like that.
Instead of saying ballsy, say badass.
Yeah.
And it's already out there.
True.
We don't, What's worse? Hexor wants to know, what's worse, ballsy or cocky?
Cocky.
Yeah.
It's different. They're different.
They're completely different. What's worse, horse shit or Sheep
shit.
or chicken shit?
Oh yeah.
Horse shit because it's bigger.
Isn't it funny how the different shits mean completely different things? Bullshit. What's worse, bullshit or horse shit? Because that's an evolution.
Wow, that's a.
What's bigger?
I think horse shit is actually.
Is
I don't know if it's bigger, but it's if you say I'm sick of your horse shit. It's more than your bullshit. You've taken it to. True. You obviously are really full of.
Yes.
So
and interesting. Actually,
we're off topic, probably.
Just to finish that off, chicken shit actually means cowardly, which I think is worse than saying unbelievable. So I would say chicken.
No, chicken shit's a completely different thing. It's cowardly.
Yeah.
Horse shit and bullshit are related.
I agree with that.
Fly shit's a different thing. I like those words. They're important.
Awesome.
Clever plus witty equals.
Oh wow.
From DC 1985. Do you guys want to finish the sentence?
No.
Okay.
At least it's not that other C word.
One of the things that you started to talk about was the skepticism of advertising. That's probably you definitely see when you've been in focus groups with women, and touch on that a little bit.
It's interesting because we were talking earlier about whether it's different for men and women, but I've noticed it more in women where if you watch them, you'll show them an ad and you watch their expression, you'll see them laugh and they look at each other a little sheepishly, and then the ad's over and the lights go on and you ask them, so what did you think of that ad? The reaction is often reversed. It's usually this bravado of, it's okay. Yeah, wouldn't get me into the store. Wouldn't get me to do this.
Even though they were just like laughing.
Yeah, and they were just laughing, which is.
Do you call them on it? I guess that's not your role. You're behind a sheet of. I
want to bang on the glass.
Yeah. Liar.
fine.
A good moderator can actually get to the root of that.
Yeah.
Where they'll say, well, I noticed you were laughing, but I think some of that comes from just a natural bravado and sort of sense that, you can't be swayed by advertising.
And with both genders, there's that sense that I can't be swayed with advertising. Do you think that it was, we talked about it earlier, hey, there aren't many ads that connect with me as a woman. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, I don't know that there's that many that connect with me as a man, beer ads connect with a kind of aspect of a man, I guess. But do you think that women are especially skeptical because there really has been less of a connection? It's easier for them to say, marketing has no effect.
My experience has been that they tend to be more skeptical, at least when you ask them about it.
Mm-hmm. Guarded.
But action actually tends to be a little bit different, which is why I always, like any focus group, you want to take it with a grain of salt, but the way they speak about the messages that they want to hear, they speak about it very logically,
right?
And they try to pull it away from the emotion, but we know that when you connect with them emotionally,
that's what happens.
Them. Exactly.
Is there another brand of tampon other than Kotex? Because does it really matter how good their advertising is?
Well, there actually is.
There is? What's the other one?
Tampax.
And
Tampax is doing a similar...
That's a big one. That seems like
that's a bigger one than Kotex.
I've bought that before. Probably been sent in,
Yeah. But their tagline is "Have a happy period."
Which is nice to... I don't know. Is that possible? Is that how it goes?
Well, a friend of mine, she said, I think that was written by guys.
There's no way that they let a guy. There's no way that they let a guy write that and that someone's like, "Yep, approved."
I
don't think there's any way.
I hate to say this,
yes,
but I know who
did
it. I know.
Was it a guy?
Well, a former chief creative officer of mine was very proud of that.
Was it a guy?
Yeah.
So a guy.
Yeah.
You're saying it was a guy.
Or he was the creative director.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
He was so proud because he felt that he broke through in a woman's category, and so
maybe he did. Maybe I don't. Did he? Does it? I hesitate to ask. Does anyone have a happy period? No. No.
I mean,
I don't.
You could be happy during your period, though.
Yeah.
Correct.
You don't associate being.
It doesn't bring
with that
happiness.
Yes, it's definitely, and for no one. Not men don't feel happy during a period either.
I think that's why they're saying have a happy period.
I can't wait for mine to end, honestly, every time.
They're saying have a happy period because I don't want you having a bad period.
Right.
Because I have to live with you.
Right. Yeah, please, happy period. Yeah.
It's like real, it's funny.
What you had some interesting statistics just about women as the major consumers in our culture, and so here we are. Well, what are the statistics?
Well, what I've found out is that women purchase 80% of all products.
Let's just say all of them. It's like 80% is for you round it up to all the product. Everything is bought by women.
Right.
Other than a couple cars that guys are allowed to buy.
Cialis probably is
after checking with their
wife. I'd say Cialis may not be purchased by women.
Well, it could be.
Well, actually,
but it said 80% healthcare. There were other surprising things.
Because if you take the purchases and then you take the influences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Why do we even advertise to guys at all?
It's true.
Well, even in traditionally male categories like do-it-yourself, over 50% purchases are by women. Electronics, 51% by women.
Are there any all-female agencies? Wouldn't that be?
There have been. I know.
It seems familiar.
I don't know of any prolific, large women's agencies, but I know that there have been smaller shops set up. But I don't see one that's actually achieved sort of the level that.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, knowing the statistics as you do now, would you suggest that all men are let go from CPB?
It wouldn't be as much fun.
No, it wouldn't.
It would be fun.
No.
It wouldn't be fun. So men are still fun.
Yeah.
They just don't function.
Right.
They don't have a real role, but they have a nice, fun, they add to the comedy of things.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
I think men can be funny every once in a while.
Yeah.
Men are funny sometimes.
Sometimes.
You laughed at a couple times during the
I
show.
did laugh.
Yeah.
I laughed a few times.
So the inverse, do you find that you have to be a man to advertise male products like cologne? So do you find that you have to be a man?
I am.
And
a
how
part
is that
man.
go? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think Danielle and I were talking about this. I think it's a little bit easier for women to take on that role because I think we've had to for a long time.
Yeah.
To get into more of the masculine arena, and it's a little more difficult for that.
But you've
to
done
happen.
a lot of. Yeah, I mean, I think a man can write something even for Kotex or whatever. I think it is
Some
possible.
of our best Old Navy work is written by men.
Talent's talent, you know.
Agreed.
But you also would be remiss not to mix it up and make sure you're getting good points of view. You know, and I like the point of view to be on the creative side, not on the other side of the glass. I think the other side of the glass is where it's troubling. You know, what if a guy, you know, writes something brilliant and it's just the other side of the glass that you're asking? It's better if it's on the team.
Exactly.
You know, this is a picture of just that's actually me, and that was done. There was a photographer that put together a campaign. And you probably know him. I think he's
I've
from
worked
Minneapolis.
with him. I have actually posters, a set of posters that maybe I'll have to frame.
A larger one of me?
I have a poster that he gave me, Craig
That's
Perman.
Nice. So I remember when that happened, my assistant said, "Hey, you got to go to this photo shoot." And I'm like, "What is it?" Like, she's like, "Don't worry about it."
That's awesome.
And I'm like, "Well, what do I wear?" And she's like, "It's all covered. You know, don't worry about it." And I'm like, and then I'm driving, and I'm like, I'm a little uncomfortable. Like, I don't know anything. And she's like, "It's going to be good for you." And then at that point, I knew that there was, and I don't. But we're in this room, and it's leather, and I've got the 2 hours of makeup where they took off my eyebrows and my chest hair, and I look pretty good.
Yeah.
Not great. I mean, let's look at it again. Not really. I thought I would look better.
I think you were the hottest out of the
I was
four.
wanting to look better.
Bob Berry was a little
Too much of
scary.
a jawline. I've never thought I had much jaw, but but then when I was done, I looked at myself in the mirror and I looked at me and I said to me, "I'd fuck me." And the terrifying bit was that voice came out of the thing that kind of looked like a woman. My voice came out of the thing that kind. So it was I don't know if it was good for me. I mean, now as I tell the story, I'm not sure it was good for me. Have you guys dressed as men? This was not where I was going with it, but it just seemed like a natural place.
No.
Some dudes love every Halloween. It's like, I'm going to dress like a woman. Have you noticed that? There's certain guys that they will not miss a Halloween. They go and drag. And it's like, just go. Don't wait for Halloween. You obviously love that.
They probably
you know?
do it other days as well.
I don't think. I think that they wait for. I think some do, but I think a lot wait for Halloween, and they shouldn't. They should do it. They should mix it up more.
It's funny, women tend to wait for Halloween to wear the skankiest outfit they can find. And that's sort of the male version of that, right? Like, I want to be a skank as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an excuse.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Halloween thing. There's some comedian that's like, you dress up as different things. I'm going to be a nun. If a nun was a whore, I'm going to be
Exactly.
I'm going to be a nurse.
Exactly.
If it was a hooker nurse.
Just add the dirty before anything.
Yeah.
The dirty nun.
The dirty,
The dirty maid.
Yeah. Wow. I'm hoping we're almost out of time. This has been a really fun show. Tweet in your questions to Fearless QA, and we'll read them on the air. We're talking about women in advertising, and we got 5 minutes, so we got a little bit of time for another couple questions. I'm wondering what you think is next for advertising, and women in advertising and advertising to women. What's next?
Well, I spoke with a few friends of mine in the business before this show, and actually just all the things that women have to deal with daily. You know, there's a lot of pressure with, purchasing 80% of all the products and having a family and a career and different things. The internet is a really, really important tool to women. It's not, it sounds kind of cliche, but there's a lot. Couponing is getting huge online. and places like Yelp.com, where you don't have to waste your time wondering if something is a good business. You can go look and there's a review. It's just more efficient. It helps women maximize their life better.
I think it's, think that, just really have heard from companies and have seen it beginning to happen where moms are shaping what not just what advertisers, what companies are offering because of what's happening with technology. And I've heard some marketers say there's a handful, we can almost name them, of moms and women that are making enormous changes to why people purchase and what they purchase.
And blogging. A lot of women are bloggers.
Yeah, I know recently there's been, that area has been under a little bit of skepticism because people found out that marketers have actually contacted these women and are paying these women to speak about their products. So I think there's
because they know which ones
they know by name. To your point. And I think one of the interesting things I was surprised to learn recently is that how much you see women involved in online gaming. I always assumed, and gaming was just a very male-dominated area, but it's increasing in popularity with women. And I think with things like Facebook, Farmville, and I think you see a lot of solitaire, that kind of, we're not talking the same level of gaming, but I think Facebook is really helping. I would love to see, and we're starting to see sort of a touch on more utility online for women. So a combination of gaming and utility to me would be a really interesting place where if you can combine the two and make utility more fun for her. And
my big passion place, and it has a lot to do with women, because women are more involved with health, right?
Yeah.
And if you really get good at health and your own personal health and the health of your children, if you get good at it and you make accurate decisions in that space and you share that knowledge with others, you transform our industrial food supply. You change the CO2 footprint of America. Amazing things ripple out from just that focus on health. And I think we're lucky that those utilities are coming online with that transparency,
awesome.
And that moms are so passionate about this space. Moms and women, honestly, more likely to save the planet than dudes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Hate saying that. Fire all the guys. We're firing all the guys. We're not, because they're funny. We leave the guys. They're funny.
Yeah. They're for entertainment.
They're entertaining.
Yes.
They keep things fresh. We can make fun of them. It's good because you can still make fun of guys too.
You can.
Although we made fun of you a little bit. You made fun back. It's good. Transvisvar says, I can't read these Twitter handles. They're just weird. He says, this is the best Fearless ever!
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
Awesome.
So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. We're gonna roll credits. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you
thank
so
you
much.
ladies for being on the show. Do I say ladies?
Ladies.
Yeah, probably not. See you next time.
Let's shoot the shit. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Let's pontificate, verbally masturbate. Come on, let's shoot the shit. It's time to shoot the shit. Come on, motherfucker, let's shoot the shit.